Okay, so I want you to imagine for just a second. Look at that chat. Isn't it great that that chat works now? Isn't that fucking swell? You know it doesn't work? You know it doesn't work at all? Magabook. Fuck Magabook. I don't think we can cover Magabook anymore. Cause hear me out. Hear me out. When Magabook will censor dirty words. Dirty words. Those need to be censored. Those are bad. Those are horrible. But like literal full frontal genital porn. That's okay, I guess. That's something that you wanted people to see. We cannot cover Magabook anymore because the thing that I was warned at some point might happen literally did happen. Unregulated websites are not to be looked at on stream. How's it going, everybody? Hopefully y'all are having a great time. I had an almost panic attack. Almost. But you know. Anywho, you're saying leave Magabook for later. I'm saying leave Magabook for period. Okay, that's what I'm saying. We do have a submission from Jack and Quill that I think is apt here. Well, shit, it can't be seen. There we go. There we are. My stream be so fine. Then boom. Random prawn on the website. That is effectively what happened. We went from about 200 viewers to 48. Magabook, you literally fucked everything. Look, nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys. This is how I feel now. Wonder how much this would actually hurt now that I've modified this blaster to be much more powerful. I am very curious now. Especially after everything that just happened. That's where I feel. Hold on. We'll use my leg. My leg will be fine. No, that's fine. I think the ball doesn't have enough travel distance to do anything. I think it's I don't think Liberators just get that strong. That is unfortunate. I'm sad. I modified this hoping that it would be super strong. It is not. I mean, it's stronger. But not as strong as it could be. What is this? Did I fuck something up when it... The fuck is that? Could I improve the performance of this by shaving that fucking plastic out of there? Probably. Oh well. Yeah, no, that does not have the best air seal. That's not how you check the fucking chamber! I know. This is definitely not how to gun stream. Just... We check right in there. Anywho, mistakes were made. So now we have to wonder whether or not the stream will be destroyed later by YouTube. If my channel gets taken down as a result of that, it will be terrible, but it will also be a very funny story. And if the channel gets taken down, I guess I'm just gonna have to be a Twitch streamer, because YouTube will not take my shit anymore. Just read Biden's speech. I was actually going to do the, or look at what he's proposed he's going to do in the first 10 days. So I deleted the old stream, but the thing is that old stream will sit on YouTube server for about 30 days. And if that is the case, then there is still worry. But I guess we'll find out. I guess we will find out. I mean, yeah, I can plead ignorance. So we'll see. If YouTube bans it, then OnlyFans. Yep, if YouTube bans it, then we go to OnlyFans. The other stream had to go down because as I was scrolling through Magabook to see what their reaction was to the inauguration of Biden, we had somebody literally randomly put porn up on their Magabook feed. And because Magabook is a free speech platform, there's no regulations for that. But they censor the fuck word. Yeah, they censor cuss words, but like full frontal nudity, that's fine, I guess. Come on, thumb. Okay, I guess it's just not gonna go. That's unfortunate. I just want my thumb to fucking pop. Please, thumb. Go! Guess it's not gonna work. Fuck this thumb. Can I get a new one? I damaged this one irreversibly years ago, and now I can't get it to pop. Transhumanism when? No, I don't have a warranty on the thumb. I should have gotten one, though. You're right. You're right. 1984 is when no transhumanism. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm sad now. Like, I'm not, like, drained of spoons or anything. It's just not what I wanted to happen on my stream. Ugh. So I guess we have to look at Greg Locke's Twitter now. Hope nobody posted porn on that. Okay, now that all that excitement's over, let's go ahead and check out. Greg Locke seems to be having a bit of a normal one today. So let's see. His pinned tweet, the tweet that he is most proud of.
The fact that Trump won is just that, a fact. I can't control the takeover of the willingly deceived people.
Oh, the irony.
I stand by what I said. I do not apologize for having deep convictions and strong values.
So I'm just going to go ahead and say that is another way of saying I will not apologize for being a stubborn asshole and having a narrow point of view.
I will not renounce my support of Trump. Hashtag hold the line.
And then the inauguration happened. I'm so sorry, Greg. Did it hurt? Did it hurt when God cast you out of heaven and said, "Nah, man, you're too fucking stupid for the pearly gates. Reincarnation for you." Did that hurt at all, Greg?
It's been 2 hours and this wicked fool has already started changing our alliance with Israel. All you phony Christ followers that voted for Biden need to own this evil.
Did he, though? Did he? Did he? Because last I checked, the Israel that exists in the Bible and the Israel that was established by the United Nations are not the same thing. And in fact, a lot of the Muslim extremists that you don't like now happen to have been radicalized by the UN's creation of Israel as it exists right now. But, you know, who am I? Who am I to criticize big-brained Greg? Who am I to criticize big-brained Greg? Let's see, what else do we have here on his lovely little slide?
The best is yet to come. Quoted from President Donald J. Trump.
Greggy Poo. Former President Donald J. Trump. Get it right. Titles are very important. You guys hold titles to be incredibly important, typically, and you want them to be as accurate as possible. That's why you have problems with trans folk, right? Let's see here. What else we got? We got a lot of copium from January 19th. Isn't it funny how, like, he's only got the one tweet after the inauguration? But he's got a pretty substantial stream of them beforehand. Like, pre-Biden inauguration Greg Locke.
Whatever you see and hear tomorrow from the Biden administration is nothing but massive theatrics. This is the biggest drama the world's ever witnessed.
Really? This is the biggest drama the world's ever witnessed. Don't you have a narrative about Christ's death? Is that not a bigger drama? I'm sorry. Also, at least me and Greg agree on one thing, is that a massive amount of what the Democratic Party is doing right now is going to end up being posturing. We agree there on something. Isn't that nice? Isn't that sweet to have common ground?
Greg Locke, to be clear, I've changed my mind about nothing. Trump will remain president. We'll be exposed. America will remain free. Revival is coming.
I think I know what we're supposed to do here. The rules of Twitter are that I'm supposed to respond to this with tweets that aged poorly. That's the rules, right? Those are the Twitter rules? When you see shit like that?
It's always easy to tell when the left loses the argument. The race card gets played.
Ah! Alright, so this is a lovely little fallacy that you're engaging in right now. There is a type of ad hominem fallacy where you can argue that somebody's point is invalid simply because they've brought up something that you've deemed as like your genetic source for invalidity. That's not how you tell if somebody's losing an argument, okay? Sometimes it's when they get incredibly angry, but even then, that's not a good way of telling if they've lost an argument. The way to tell that somebody's lost an argument is to fact check the shit that they've said. If it's a public debate, then it's hard to really quantify a winner or loser there in certain situations. Now, there are some that I'm okay saying there's a clear winner, like Ken Ham versus Bill Nye. Bill Nye slapped the shit out of Ken Ham, but fact of the matter is, whenever Greg Locke here says that the left loses an argument when the race card gets played. What if the conversation is about race, Greg? That's a weird little middle groundy area, a weird little conversation to have there.
You played the race card on me. You lose.
Okay, but we were literally talking about BLM. We're literally talking about systemic racism right now. That is the topic of conversation, Greg. How is playing the race card suddenly a loss here when it's the subject of the debate? When it's the subject of the conversation, Greg? It's almost like you get to have conversations like this using this criteria so that instead of actually engaging in the conversation, you get to have tertiary conversations that have little to do with the actual subject matter, and then claim victory whenever you win. But we will keep on going through.
Don't listen to the mainstream media. If you think any real Trump supporters, or patriotic Americans for that matter, are really going to be in D.C. Wednesday, then you need to lay off the juice. It's another silly setup. It's all so dumb at this point. More smoke and mirrors. Just remember, folks, the military swore an oath to protect the Constitution. They did not swear to protect a fraudulent election.
You're right, Greg. That's why they're not keeping Trump in office. This is one of those things where you get to like send it to accidentally left wing and just go, holy shit, Greg, you're right. The military's not here to support fraudulent elections. That's why Trump isn't staying in the White House. You got it, Greg. You succeeded.
Go over to Telegram.
Telegram, you know.
The left is losing control and everyone can feel it. The news pattern becomes so predictable. Smoke and mirrors. Enjoy the next few days.
Oh, God. That actually made me yawn. Greg, can you please name the far left media outlet in the United States? That'd be cool. Okay, please do. Like, can you please name the media outlet that is pro-socialism, that is pro-communism? After, Greg, please, after you've defined those terms. Because I don't want you to go, no, CNN is all communists. It's all communists. They hate Trump. Like, no, I get it, Greg. I get it. Your favorite snowflake president is currently being melted because everybody's pissing on him. I understand. But unless you're willing to define those things, you don't get to say the mainstream media is far left. I'm sorry, Greg. You'll need to define a far left, and then you'll need to actually make an argument that the mainstream media is in fact far left. You can't just say things are far left because they're against Trump. Bitch, Fox News is not entirely pro-Trump right now. Fox News, of all people. Are you going to tell me that Fox News is far left? Is that where we have to go, Greg?
CNN employs the world's biggest race-baiting instigator. Don Lemon owes Americans a massive apology. Yeah, Don Lemon, I'm calling you out for listening or likening all Trump supporters to Klansmen and Nazis. You have the most divisive rhetoric of anyone in America.
So, can I go and say, there's nothing wrong with divisive rhetoric. Just, here's the reason why. Here's the reason why divisive rhetoric is not bad on its own. Yes, honey? Sure. One sec. There we go. Okay. So, divisive rhetoric is, yes, an instrument that can be used terribly wrong. It can be used very badly. But if the divisive rhetoric is, hey, maybe Nazis are kind of not okay, and maybe we shouldn't support white supremacists, that is divisive rhetoric. But where's the actual dividing line? That's where you have to have that conversation. It doesn't matter that the rhetoric is itself divisive. In fact, actually, come to think of it, Greg, aren't you one of the pastors who prides himself in the divisiveness of what you say? Aren't you one of the pastors? I know this is too quoque. Go ahead and hit me in the comment sections. I don't care. Aren't you one of the pastors who, specifically goes in and says that liberal pastors or pastors that try to preach unity and Christ's love and all that shit, aren't you one of the pastors that says that that's wrong and it's unbiblical and the Bible's supposed to be divisive? How is divisive rhetoric a problem for you now, Greg? I'm sorry, dude. I'm not trying to say you're a hypocrite, okay? I'm just trying to say that you might be a hypocrite. But there's more on Greg's little fun meltdown here.
Instagram and Facebook have both reinstated Donald Trump's accounts. Twitter will follow soon enough. Prepare for a truly unbelievable few days.
So, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think the most unbelievable thing that's happened right now is that you haven't tweeted any longer on the inauguration day, Greg. That's an unbelievable feat. Let's see. What else do we have here in his lovely little shit? It's fun to see, the build-up to the inauguration.
The Republicans that sided with Pelosi are forever marked in politics. Their careers are over. It's doubtful McDonald's will even hire them.
Okay, so I love the classist shit here. Greg Locke is not only a divisive person when it comes to his theology, but also when it comes to classism, because this idea that McDonald's is a lower echelon job that is only to be taken by the disgraced, and that even McDonald's won't hire you, is somehow a valid criticism of anyone. It is steeped so much in personal privilege and hatred against working class Americans that it's disgusting. McDonald's isn't great and the job isn't great, but essentially insulting and throwing anybody who works at McDonald's under the bus merely because they're trying to make ends meet, and then using that as your way of insulting someone, that's really fucking gross. Imagine how many working class Americans there are in his congregation who aren't going to put two and two together on that and realize he hates them specifically.
There's only a handful of people in the entire planet as evil, devious, dangerous, dishonest, and anti-American as Kamala Harris.
Sorry, I've been told to pronounce it correctly. My response to that is going to be pronouncing Joe Biden's name, Joe Biden. But that said, I do have to say that while I don't like Kamala Harris, I don't like the policies that she has supported over her career. I don't like the fact that she has directly led to an increase in the disproportionate jailings of African Americans in the United States. I don't like that she has been a contributing factor in all of that. I don't. But to try to say that this person's the most evil, the most corrupt, the most whatever, I don't see how you get to that. Yeah, she's bad. I agree. But there are certainly worse. The dude you stan is certainly worse. So it's interesting to go through these people's Twitters and see kind of the logic that spins the gears in their head, because it almost makes it a lot easier to predict where and what they will melt down about.
The evidence is abundantly clear. Antifa and BLM are responsible for the Capitol riots.
The FBI doesn't agree with you. We literally did a whole thing on Mr. Obvious showing that that's not the case. But, go on, Queen.
They are terrorist groups. CNN and Fox are both 100% in on it. The main instigator was arrested and charged.
Oh, this is about Anthony Sullivan, isn't it? Or Jonathan Sullivan. This is about Sullivan? Because dude's been shown to not actually be Antifa/BLM. He literally had been thrown out of multiple BLM groups before he actually did anything at the Capitol. So he's also not the main instigator. That basically would mean that a person of color who is an Antifa insurgent, quote unquote, is somehow more compelling and provocative than Donald Trump. And don't get me wrong, Greg. I agree that there are people who are Antifa that are certainly better rhetoricians than Donald Trump, but I don't think you'd ever admit to that. But
The jig is up. It wasn't President Trump. The left created chaos.
The amount of copium that has to be huffed to get to the conclusions that Greg Locke does is insane. Unless he wants to say that the FBI is wrong, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they are a perfect organization by any means, by any metric, but to come to the conclusions that Greg Locke does, he has to literally ignore material reality and make up his own, and then sit there and chug seminal fluid from One America News Network and other sources that are more right-wing than Fox News, which is not outside the realm of possibility. I don't know exactly which news sources Greg stands, but he certainly hates the mainstream media, which, I can understand that. But it is fun, honestly, to see this kind of meltdown. Not because I'm taking any particular joy in it, don't get me wrong, I am, but because, like I said before, it does give you a little bit of insight into the type of mentality that drives an individual like this. That drives someone who is in a position of privilege so high that they have to maintain the facade that they are a victim in order to function day to day in life. But that's all we're going to cover from Greg today. I'm interested to see what the rest of his library of tweets and also videos is going to look like within the first few weeks of Biden's presidency. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen here. But if you want to see that whenever we get to that, go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon so that you'll know whenever a new episode comes out. Also, that like button helps a ton in the algorithm. If you didn't like what I just said or anything that I've covered, then go ahead and leave a dislike. I mean, those help me as well. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully this video has caught you at a good time. Hopefully. And with that, we get to continue the stream proper. So that was fun. Have I heard of Second Thought on YouTube? Yes, I have. I actually just recently discovered Second Thought and have been thoroughly enjoying the content that I have seen so far. I've not had too many issues with Second Thought. Oh my god. He only reads one book that contains very little true information, and that evidence is that now he's in touch with reality. Yep. Not wrong. Okay, so with that said, we seem to be back up to our average viewership, which is good. How's everyone doing now that we have had the lovely scare that happened earlier, and also we have had fun poking fun at Greg? Good old Greg boy. Literal says, now I have to listen to Ben Shapiro. I wish you sanity. Why do you have to listen to Ben Shapiro? What is making you have to listen to Ben Shapiro? Also, this was just sent to me by Oz in the chat. I want you to think of the mentality that goes into this. Oh, hello, Growlith. Thank you for opening the door. The door that was supposed to be cracked.
She wanted to say hello.
I see that. Going to crack the door again and give Growlith some hello. Growlith girl. Growly baby. Come here. Come here. Come here. Hi there. Hi, baby girl. Hi there. How are you doing? You doing good? Oh, no. Growlith. Growlith, come back. I know you're excited to smell my shoes, but maybe you can come up here. Come on. Come on. Come on, baby girl. There you go. Here's a good girl. There's a Growlith. What a baby girl. You just gonna lick your junk? Is that what you're gonna do? There's a good girl. There's a good baby.
If you had a choice between hamburger or beef brats, which would you rather have?
I'd rather a hamburger. Okay, baby girl. You doing alright? You having a good time? Yeah? Okay. She hops down. Bread needs to be back. She hasn't evolved an Arcanine yet. I can't seem to find a Firestone. I don't think I'll be able to evolve her into an Arcanine. No Firestone to be seen. Unfortunately. Why am I tired? Why would I possibly be tired? I haven't even... Jeebus. Yeah, Growlithe did grow up pretty fast. But it's okay because we love her. Isn't that right, baby girl? Isn't that right? Aren't you loved? You gonna lay down? You're such a loved girl. Such a loved baby. Alright. Of course there's cats. There's Terror right there. Right back there. She's a good girl. And then Growlithe is currently under the desk. Hi, hun. You doing alright down there? You having fun? Okay. Okay. Does this have a... Nope, not loaded. I guess... Ah! I just lost one of the ammo pieces. Oh well. We'll get into the next thing. Actually, you know what? Who wants to get into, oh god, phrasing! I was gonna say who wants to get into Caitlin Bennett next, but then I realized that the phrasing on that was possibly... Ha! I don't think even her ex-girlfriend wants any of that anymore. Sir has just lost the radical left. You've just lost the radical left. Rival balls or half lengths? So this one is a rival ball blaster. I need to unjam it though. I managed to jam it. There we go. Aha! It fires too, perfectly fine now. I modded this earlier today, comrade backpack. I went ahead and took a Busby Spring Fire Spring and shoved it in the back like a spacer. So now there's 2 springs in here, and it fires. It fires well. But yeah, I managed to jam it. Unfortunately, I oofed. As far as the half-lengths, though, I do have half-lengths. Because I, of course, have a half-length launcher. Luckily, I managed to fix it earlier for those who are just now tuning in. But... And it fires decently hard now, because I put a spacer in it. And, of course, modified to the out. God, priming that hurts now, though. Jesus. It hurts to prime it, but it's fine. It's fine. I said who wants to get into Caitlin Bennett, and we lost 10 viewers. I think that tells you exactly who wants to get in. Fires decently hard. Clip it. With an OnlyFans account, you could tackle Magabook again. I could. I was just sent this from Oz, though, before we get into the Caitlin Bennett stuff. What kind of mentality goes into, 1, calling yourself Syndrome of a Down, and 2, going,
all 10 of Biden's high-profile appointees are Jews. That's right. Every single one.
Like, who the fuck is this dude? I wonder. Hold on. I wonder. Is he...
We are facing the rewards of our parents' tolerance of everything that stands against us.
Oh my god. It is literally the white replacement shit. Or the fucking white genocide shit. Great replacement. Let's see here. What else does he have on here? If his argument's just going to be they're Jews. Is Biden going to have a single Gentile in his administration? Like, what? Hey, my thumb finally popped.
They might ban us from accessing the web. They might block our telephone lines. They can do as they want. If it takes handing out flyers and DVDs, that's what it will take. No excuse. No surrender. Is this a LARPing 12-year-old? This is a LARPing 12-year-old. This has to be a fucking guy, a little kid who discovered Lauren Southern and just went, Mom, I like the fascist with the titties. And then just immediately started going off repeatedly about white genocide. Like, funny that a Persona 5 ad is a promoted tweet there. I know, right? If you feel black-pilled, remember that just 9 years ago, no one would ever talk about white replacement outside of the weird conspiracy theorist circles. Now white replacement is a thing everyone's aware of. They attack us because we're winning in the minds of people. Keep it up.
I'm gonna die. Hi! Hi! What's up? What's going on, hun? Talk to me. He posted cringe, bro. He's gonna lose subscribers. I don't think this person's trolling. I don't. What? What is going on, Growly? Talk to me. Talk to me, hun. Come here. Okay, what's going on? You seem very upset, and I don't know why. Tell everybody at home. Do you just not want to tell them? Is it you just don't want to tell them? Growl, if they want to talk to you, come on, talk to them. Talk to them. Don't huff. Talk. You can do it. Come on. No? Okay, well. Fuck it. Apparently, doesn't want to talk. She just wants to be. She just wants to be a big old problem. It's okay. It's okay. Oh, baby. I'm gonna let her out of the office and see if maybe that helps. See if maybe she's feeling claustrophobic. There you go. There you go. In the meantime, hi, Hylia. Come on. Growly didn't want to talk, so maybe you will. Hey, Hylia, baby.
Out of the kitchen.
Does this cat speak joy? No, this isn't Gigi. This is Hylia. Hey, Hylia. Hey, Bubby. He's just fine. Hylia, you gonna go? Where are you gonna go, buddy? Where are you gonna go? Hey, bud. Hey, bud. You gonna go lay back down? You gonna go lay back down? Is that what you're gonna do? Well? Or are you just gonna sit? You're just gonna sit, aren't you? Me bringing you over here was a mistake. You have gained control of the stream. The power of the stream is in your hands. Okay, let's put these back on. Yeah, I know, cats rule the internet. Cat speaks indifference. All cats do. Hey there, buddy. So you're wagging your tail. You okay? Aww. He cuddles. See, I'm trying to be a very serious political streamer. I'm trying very hard, but there's just this fluff baby here. And this fluff baby is way more important than the politics. Apparently. Mwah. Cat take over when? Oh. Here he goes. There we go. Cat take over now. He's taken over the stream. I just... Cirrus lost the radical left twice in one stream. I did. Hey, buddy. Hi, Growlithe. Thank you for opening the door again. Oh my gosh. These animals, they're killing me. Okay, Hylia, I gotta close the door, so you gotta hop down. Yep, you hop down there. Okay. Growlithe, no. I cannot with these animals. Versus Doge be trolling. Yep. How long has the stream been going? Technically, a little over an hour. Technically speaking. I did not eat a strong enough breakfast. Oops. I made a huge mistake. By not eating a good enough breakfast, I am now being slowly drained of energy. 44 minutes on this stream, but remember that we did have to cut out the stream from before. So that creates a bit of an issue. Yeah, we had an interrupt. Let's see here. Imagine being super excited that Rush Limbaugh called you a babe. Just imagine that. Also, Caitlin Bennett says goodbye YouTube, but she made more videos. Let's see, though. Let's see. Apparently, Caitlin Bennett has a video called Goodbye YouTube. Now, despite the fact that there are videos uploaded after this video came out, I am curious to see what the content of this video is. Because, well, at the end of the day, Fashy McPoopants always gives us great things to engage in commentary on. Let's see here.
YouTube, as we know it, is now completely dead. And if you support Donald Trump, your days here are now numbered.
YouTube is now dead. And if you support Trump, your days are now numbered. That's... okay, sure. Let's continue, I guess.
To us here on the right, big tech censorship isn't anything new. For years now, they've been targeting conservatives and making those of us still left on here have to censor ourselves just to maintain a social media presence. They tried to be subtle about it for a while, but once the election came around, they took the mask off.
They took the mask off. Caitlin, I hate to tell you, this is a wonderful freeze frame, by the way. This is an amazing freeze frame. But I hate to tell you, Caitlin, that at the end of the day, big tech censors all of us, okay? Do you know who big tech doesn't want to win? The left. Do you want to know why? Because the left, not liberals, the left, leftists, are generally anti-large corporation. We are generally pro-workers' rights. We are, generally speaking, anti-CEO. And if there's one thing big tech wants to keep, it is workers who are underpaid. It is CEOs having a lot of power and a lot of money. At the end of the day, Caitlin, the reason that conservatives get banned off of YouTube is generally because they engage in terms of service violations. This happens to lefties too. The amount of times that I've seen a conservative content creator like a Steven Crowder or someone go, "Oh my God, my video was demonetized by YouTube, big tech censorship. It's all bad. Don't they love guns and freedom?" And then you have to ask yourself, well, hold on, wait a minute. I got a question. What would you say if I was having the same thing happen to me? Because every few videos, I'm generally good about doing the things that YouTube wants me to do to not get demonetized, but it happens often enough that my videos get demonetized too. And I know that other content creators who are left-leaning on this platform have it happen as well. Xander Hall does, Vosh does, Jimmy Snow does, Telltale does. All of us deal with big tech, Alphabet, YouTube, Google, doing the demonetization thing, doing the thing that actively lowers the amount of people that will watch and engage with our content, because when you have a video that's demonetized, the algorithm does not pick it up as well. Videos that get remonetized generally start performing better after their monetization. This happens to everyone, Caitlin. Everyone. And yet, it is when conservatives are getting attacked by it, that is when she holds issue.
And went full-blown communist, hiding dozens of President Trump's tweets.
Wait, hold on.
Anything.
Did you?
Full-blown communist. Once the election came around, they took the mask off and went full-blown communist.
Caitlin, do you know what communism is? Communism is a stateless, classless, generally moneyless society. What about big tech is communist? They literally enforce a rigid hierarchy. Literally engaging in the doings of class. How is... and an argument can be made that many of the largest corporations are slowly, through lobbying, becoming pseudo-oligarchs. At what point is any of that communist, Caitlin? No workers own their means of production, though that would be socialism. There is no workers' rights here. It's literally, this is the free market. This is the end result of the free market. When you have an unregulated free market, you inevitably end up granting undue power to large corporations to do things like deplatform you when they control the most ubiquitous platforms. This is the direct end result of conservative economic policies. This is what happens when conservative economic policies are followed through. Caitlin, maybe, just maybe, a mirror would be the best place for you to look if you are trying to figure out where all the censorship is coming from. Remember, it's people like Richard Spencer who have argued that they are pro-free speech in name only. They don't actually care about free speech.
Hiding dozens of President Trump's tweets, labeling anything as misinformation,
1984 is when Donald Trump can't tweet.
and fact-checking anything that challenges mainstream media narratives.
So, you do understand that Fox News is part of the mainstream media, and CNN is as well. And both of them have engaged in blatant falsehoods from time to time. It's not just the mainstream media narrative. Generally speaking, when you are fact-checking, you are trying to determine if something is true as it corresponds to ontology, not true as it corresponds to what the news anchor on Fox News said last night. I don't know if you actually understand that, Caitlin. I don't know if that idea has just slipped by you, but apparently it has. Apparently she doesn't know what an actual fact check is. Then again, this is the same person who has engaged in Holocaust denialism, so I don't think Caitlin knows what a fact is.
But what YouTube just announced is so much worse than any type of censorship we've seen before. They are now going to completely erase any content that challenges or questions the integrity of the 2020 election, and they boast having already banned thousands of accounts. According to YouTube's latest policy update, quote, "Since September, we've terminated over 8,000 channels and thousands of harmful and misleading elections-related videos for violating our existing policies."
Oh, darn! You mean the policies in the terms of service that were there that those channels agreed to and then violated. I don't know how to tell you this, but YouTube isn't state-owned. YouTube is not a right. It's a privilege. For me, it's a job. For you, it is too. YouTube is not that thing that you just have as a default because you were born into society. That's supposed to be stuff like healthcare. But no, YouTube is a private organization, a subsidiary of Google, a subsidiary of the Alphabet Corporation. You agreed to these terms when you hopped on YouTube, and everybody else there did too. And when they violated those terms, like an at-will employment status, they were terminated. These are things that are bad in some form or fashion, in the regard that having ubiquitous power over information is bad. But it's not bad from a conservative point of view. From a conservative point of view, this isn't a bug. This is a feature. This is a feature of having a large mega corporation having unchecked power. This is what you fought for.
The policy update continues. We also work to make sure that the line between what is removed and what is allowed is drawn in the right.
I invite you to finish your food.
Finish my food?
Yeah, finish making your food.
Not in the recording part. Give me a second.
Okay. Whatever. I'll never cook for you again.
You'll never cook for me again? That is unfortunate. But
Place. Our policies prohibit misleading viewers about where and how to vote. We also disallow content alleging widespread fraud or errors change the outcome of a historical U.S. presidential election. However, in some cases, that has meant allowing controversial views on the outcome or process of counting votes of a current election as election officials have worked to finalize counts. And here's where things get really spooky. We will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or anytime after that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors change the outcome of the 2020 US presidential election.
how's that spooky? That's literally just saying, hey, we don't like lies. They don't like lies. And specifically lies that are shown to be directly harmful. Because consider this for a moment. If everybody in the United States suddenly, all at the same time, decided that democracy didn't work, what would happen? Well, more democracy wouldn't happen. That's not what would happen after that. These things are harmful. They cause harm. They are a problem. There's not really an issue with YouTube having a policy saying that they will remove stuff like this. Now, will they overreach in their attempts to control? Sure, they always do. But this, in general, is not a problem.
In line with our approach towards historical US presidential elections. For example, we will remove videos claiming that a presidential candidate won the election due to widespread software glitches or counting errors.
Yeah. Of course, because those things have been, for the most part, debunked. So in Georgia, we found that there were, in fact, some errors in the way that votes were counted, and we found 100, 200, something like that. And strangely enough, those votes weren't for Biden. Those votes were for Trump. Like, it ended up being in Trump's favor when things were checked, but it was not in Trump's favor so much that it would have changed anything. Like, imagine if that error existed in every state. So there were 200 or 300 votes found in every state, and that was your margin for error. For one, that's an astronomically good margin for error. Two, more importantly, it wouldn't change shit. 50 states times 300 or 400 only gets us to a handful of thousands. We don't actually come to the 6 million vote gap between Biden and Trump. Not only do we not come to that 6 million vote gap, we don't get anywhere near the amount required for the Electoral College to be turned over. It's one thing to say that there were errors in the voting process. I am perfectly willing to accept that. It is another thing entirely to say that there were enough errors to have changed the outcome of the election. And currently, that does not seem to be the case. There's a reason the Supreme Court down. The Supreme Court, mind you, the Supreme Court that Donald Trump mostly appointed. It is a mostly Republican Supreme Court. Many of the people in there were appointed by Trump himself. It is the fact that those people, the people he put in power, were literally tossing out the fraud allegations whenever they actually crept up to the Supreme Court. This is a hostile witness principle. People who have every reason to want Trump to stay in office are going, no, that's not how things work. That should be one of your indicators that maybe, just maybe, things aren't actually as cut and dry as you think. Or at least as cut and dry as Caitlin Bennett thinks.
Those are awfully specific, YouTube. Effectively, what they are...
They're awfully specific because they have to be. They're awfully specific because that's what a good regulation on a website should be specific. If you make it too vague and vapid, then you're able to overreach. If you make it specific, then you're able to actually argue as to why you are engaging in particular policy information and why you are engaging in particular acts on your website. That's what you want. It's called transparency. But Caitlin doesn't like transparency.
Saying is that if you use YouTube to allege that anyone but Joe Biden won the 2020 election, you will be banned. Even before they...
Actually, it didn't say that you would be banned. It said the video would be removed and that they had banned accounts. It does not immediately say you will be banned for doing so, simply that the video will be removed, which likely means that a video would be removed and then the striking process would be engaged. You'd get one strike, then you'd get another strike, and then at the third strike, you're out. I've had strikes on my videos on YouTube. So I'm just throwing that out there, Caitlin. You can sit here and be the victim. You can sit here and be the snowflake, but it doesn't change the material reality.
They announced this policy update, it was already abundantly clear that YouTube was trying to stop the spread of pro-Trump content. In case you haven't noticed, our views on YouTube have recently been a mere fraction of what we were getting just a month ago.
Yeah, it's been happening with me as well, Caitlin. All political content has had this issue lately. Is it just conservative censorship, or is it that either the algorithm is moving things away from strictly political content, or what I would rather believe is the case, because this means that I actually have some ownership in this, there's something about your content that needs improving. Because that's what's happening with mine, I think. My content needs improving. So I'm not getting as many views as I used to. I'd rather own that instead of saying, YouTube is shitting on me.
Needless to say, it's going to be very difficult for me to keep uploading videos here to YouTube. What am I even allowed to talk about anymore besides the weather?
Talk about the things you like. Talk about the things you love. Talk about what you did during the day. Talk about economic policy. Talk about what Joe Biden's presidency is going to do and how it's going to affect you in a positive or a negative way. Talk about the things that you enjoyed from Trump's presidency. Talk about the reasons why you think the vague platitudes that conservatives generally stand on are somehow axiomatic and worth keeping around. You have so many things you can talk about. Talk about your favorite political authors. Talk about fucking Thomas Sowell. I know that that's one of the people you're going to grab because he's a black economist who argues for conservatism. He's literally the perfect token for you. You can talk about all that shit. You have so much you can talk about. If your argument is that, if I can't talk about voter fraud, what can I even talk about? Then I think your issue with your views might actually be a lack of creativity, Caitlin. I think that's what it might come down to. I've got to manage 2 to 3 topics almost every day for a stream to talk about. Things I've got to research beforehand, things I've got to figure out how I'm going to cover them, and then I get onto the stream and I talk about them. It's hard, but it is not so hard to be creative in what you're going to cover. Just look at the news. It's not hard, Caitlin. You're upset that you can't talk about your pet issue right now. And then using that to say, well, what can I even talk about? This is like a disgraced lover who just received a boundary and is suddenly going, well, then what can I do? You told me I can't have sex with you when you say no. Now what can I do? That's not how this works, Caitlin.
This is why it's more important than ever for you to join us over at libertyhangout.tv, where I can actually speak freely and not have to worry about censorship. We are currently having our biggest sale ever for Christmas, and I highly encourage you guys to...
Okay, we're not going to look at the freaking sale. Okay, now that we've gotten into a sale, Caitlin, we're not doing this. I'm not going to listen to you pitch your sale after whining about being a snowflake. Okay, Caitlin, I'm not. Also, I have been told by Raz, Creepy Eebies in the chat, repeatedly now, that I need to go get food or the cats are going to get it. So I guess that is going to be the end of this particular segment. We might return to Caitlin Bennett later if anybody wants to deal with any more brain hemorrhaging. But I think a food break would be great. So,
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon if you so choose. We will return to Caitlin Bennett in order to engage in more pain and suffering later, but if you want to know when that happens, the best way to find out is by hitting the bell notification icon to see when that video goes live. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Except, you guys in the chat, I'm still going to be here. That's not your cue to leave. I'm hitting the pause button, grabbing food, and then I will be popping back. So give me just a minute, okay? Just a minute. Okay, we are back. Some of y'all didn't fucking listen. Like 40 people jumped out. I'm just getting food, ya assholes. Jesus. Anyway. I guess we are taking a food break. It is now mukbang time. How's everybody doing? It's hard to get good burgers since Caleb Maupin stopped making them. Burger King. So the mac and cheese, good. The burgers, good. The only thing that could improve, melting cheese on the burger. That's the only thing that could have been improved. But flavor's really good. You can melt your own damn cheese. Hey, look. I can, you're right. I was going to do it when I called for you, but you told me to wait.
I see. You didn't want to melt cheese onto my burger because you hate me. Raz? Don't you dare. I will protect real Saris. I will protect real Saris if you come in here. I have to keep looking at the chat. But Raz, I will always be watching. I'll always be watching, and then bam. Do you want to live forever? So you know what? It's primed. Every one of these is going to be primed and ready. I will have 3 shots to protect real Saris. I sense domestic violence. I'll call the police. Nope. 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 Real Saris will be protected. That's how this works. It's not cheating, Pika. Ah! I just lost my fork. I just lost my fork. Where the fuck did the fork go? What the hell? It fell on... Did the fork get lost to the Aether? I'm so confused. Okay. Okay. Are you smoking a weed? Okay, we have the fork, but we cannot use it. I have to wash it. I cannot trust her. I cannot. What is this video request and why do I hate it? No. I am not gonna do that video request. The advertisement saved me. Oh, I know it's a trap. I'm aware it's a trap. It was bait. Growlithe would tear real Saris apart. No. Like, okay, so I have a thing to show you guys. Look at this shit. Kate's unsafe space. What the hell? It's good food. As we slowly lose. Unsafe space. The place where conservatives can feel safe from communism. Did you want to sell thigh holsters just to pose with pleasure toys? Like, what I don't understand about people like Caitlin Bennett is, do they know? Do they know they're grifting? I want you to imagine a world where Caitlin Bennett falls in love with a leftist, not realizing that he's a leftist, or she's a leftist. And then her having to actually go through a freaking arc. Like a forgiveness arc. Do you think that's even possible? I actually like your opinions in the chat. Do any of you think it's possible for Caitlin Bennett to go through a forgiveness arc? When a fascist dates a liberal. A rom-com. Will Caitlin's BF have a scat fetish in the fantasy novel? You know who I suggest? I have 2 suggestions for people for Caitlin Bennett to fall in love with in order for her to have her redemption arc. Suggestion 1, Ashley Coffin. Because you might as well just fucking fall like literal full communist after that. Will she dress as a pumpkin and seduce a pastor? Ha! Tommy McMurtry would be the ideal match, but I'm looking for somebody who's not ideologically like Caitlin. What if she fell for you? No. No. My answer is no. I don't want my entire relationship to be trying to argue that she needs to change the way she thinks, and to constantly be trying to go, no, it's okay if Raz wants to have a girlfriend. Stop being a fucking homophobe, you dipshit. Like, yeah, Caitlin Bennett's on the instant knockout list for Raz. On the list of potential polyamorous partners for Cirrus, Caitlin Bennett is probably very, very low, if not at the bottom. No, it's not. None of that. None of that shit. This is why I nominate someone else to suffer. ContraPoints would have been my other suggestion. No, the reason I don't want to propose Ollie is I do not want it to be a man. Because Caitlin Bennett's had a girlfriend before. Raz has the details on that. Shalashi says, I'd pay to watch Raz RKO Caitlyn. Consider this a down payment. Raz, you have the details on Caitlyn's ex-lover. How about Eseth? The thing is, Eseth isn't really a leftist. Like, I want somebody who's a down and true leftist. And Eseth doesn't fit the bill. Not that Eseth is a bad person. But does not fit the bill for this particular strategy. Raz would prefer I date Cirrus than Caitlyn dating him. Oz, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think what you just said is a falsehood. But you'd have to get past the, like, mega ultra straightness. That would be, like, the biggest hurdle. Jag and Quill, I've had political conversations with Eseth before. Eseth is not a leftist. I don't think AOC would fit the bill. Because I don't actually know how far left AOC is. Mainly because she's a politician. And as much as I want to trust things she says, I can't. Because she's in politics. Demon Mama X Caitlyn. How about Jen Aldrich? That would be a disaster. Jen would knock Caitlyn out. Like, no. Okay. Jen is an atheist wind down. Yes, that Jen. Though it's just called the wind down now. Since she's wanting to move into more political content and less atheist content. Atheist content on its own has some issues politically. What the hell? Did I have a... Okay. I don't know if an NB femboy would work because Caitlyn has a huge thing with toxic masculinity, sees it as all positive traits. So I wouldn't see that as working. Oz says, fuck it, I'll nominate myself. There we go. Oz x Caitlyn, that's what we're doing now. Oz gets to do it. Oz, you are our sacrificial lamb. You must go seduce Caitlyn to the dark side. Go have fun. Enjoy the conversations about Holocaust denialism and everything else that comes with it. Got your work cut out for you, bud. Have fun. Do you get a visa for that? Oh, shit. Never mind. Caitlyn doesn't like you. You'd be an immigrant. I'm wrong. I was wrong. Nope. Oz can't do it. What the hell did I just... Why are we sacrificing Oz? So, Bleck, the conversation happened earlier of how would Caitlyn Bennett have a redemption arc? Like a Hunter Avalone-esque redemption arc. And the only way I can see it is for her to, like, date someone that has directly opposing views. And then when, she used to date a woman before she went on this whole Nazi train. So it's like, well, shit. It would have to be a woman. Because we've got to go, like, pull completely out. So my nominations were, like, Ashley Coffin and Natalie. ContraPoints. But... Oz nominated himself. So Oz was going to be our sacrificial lamb. And then I remembered that Oz would technically be an immigrant, and therefore he would not fit the bill, so no. That's what you just walked into. That's why we were thinking of sacrificing Oz, and we decided not to. But yeah, like Raz said earlier, Caitlyn's ex actually has a TikTok where she just goes into, like, all of the well, actually, hold on. Raz, if you're still watching, can you send me a link to that TikTok? We could actually go over some of that on stream. Because that could be helpful for this particular conversation. Because I think some people don't know that, like, there was a pre-Nazi Caitlyn Bennett. Investigative journalism stream. I mean, if that's what you want to call that, I just call it my suffering, but, you do you. You call it what makes you comfy. Match Caitlyn with Shannon Q. Yeah. Hold up. Let me see. apparently we do not have the TikTok of the individual available right now. So yay. Are you still pursuing moob armor for yourself? Actually, I already got the fan art for it. See, Jack and Cool, what you do is you just keep the stream running while you're driving, but you just make sure you don't look at it. That would be a good thing. Transformed white, no. Okay, so I guess we may as well go ahead and continue this video now that I've eaten. Caitlin Bennett. Kate's unsafe space. Imagine the virtue signaling.
Sign up for our annual plan, which you can get so that I could upload every single video I make to YouTube. But with the way things are going, the majority of my content going forward will likely have to be uploaded at libertyhangout.tv. I've also
imagine that. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get to poke fun at Parler. But imagine that my views are so controversial that I will no longer be able to publish them on YouTube. Gee, I wonder what views those would be, Caitlin. I'm not gonna pay money to libertyhangout.tv to actually see what goes on there, but I am so curious if anybody has actually gone onto libertyhangout.tv to see the things that are said there, because I'm not gonna lie, it strikes me that's probably where you're gonna get a lot of your fun Holocaust denialism. Not that she hasn't engaged in that publicly before.
moved over to Parler and Rumble, and
She's moved over to Parler. Man, can you imagine what it's like to be Caitlin Bennett on Parler right now? Oh wait, you can't! Nobody's on Parler right now. At least not for right now. Apparently they're moving to Russian servers, which is very patriotic, I have to say. Really Putin the patriotism back on Parler.
I urge you guys, very quickly, go follow us there as well. Unfortunately, YouTube's policy update doesn't just end there, of course. They tell us in plain text what their goal with all of this is. They write, over 70% of recommendations on election-related topics came from authoritative news sources, and the top recommended videos and channels for election-related content were primarily authoritative news. In fact, the top 10 authoritative news channels were recommended over 14 times more than the top 10 non-authoritative news channels on election-related content. So who exactly do they consider to be an authoritative news source? We have ABC News, USA Today, NBC, Fox News, CBS. Gee, I wonder why they would consider these outlets authoritative.
Probably because they've been doing this for years. Like, you got Fox on there. You got your mainstream media source that's for the right wing.
Surely they would not have an agenda, right? And here's where their policy update gets a little funny. Despite these encouraging results, we recognize that there's always more to do. For example, while problematic misinformation represents a fraction of 1% of what's watched on YouTube in the US, we know we can bring that number down even more. So this misinformation, as they call it, is so dangerous to our democracy that they have to outright ban it. Yet it only makes up a fraction of 1% of what's watched on YouTube.
So let's go ahead and say and point out why this is being done, Caitlin. Okay, if you don't know, okay, Caitlin, let me make it very simple for you. If a conspiracy theorist comes up with a very, what's the word for it? Convincing conspiracy theory. And this conspiracy theory involves the Jews, if you're going to go ahead and go the anti-Semitic route. And so you are a fraction of this ideology, but you have a platform, and you use this platform to magnify the audience that is watching this. There's a thing called stochastic terrorism. These are random acts of violence that are carried out because a social media influencer, a presidential candidate, an ex-president, any number of people have influenced someone to engage in an act of violence. It is hard to predict how this is going to happen, which is why we use the term stochastic. But stochastic terrorism generally ends up breeding, well, shit like what happened at the Unite the Right rally, where we actually got a murder there. Shit that happened at the Capitol Hill protests, which turned into a riot, which turned into all kinds of nasty shit. So maybe the fact that we have real-world examples of what happens when we allow even these 1% of opinions to flourish on a platform. You see, that's the difference here, is that it's not that you're not allowed to talk about them, Caitlin. You can talk about them all you want. You even pointed out that there were alternative sources you could talk about them on. It's about a platform that has its own terms of service saying that it doesn't want those opinions on its platform. They don't want Holocaust denial. They don't want anti-Semitism. They don't want Nazi shit. They don't want people who are from the alt-right spouting their nonsense. They don't want that. And why would you want that? If you are actively welcoming these people in simply because everybody should have their own voice, they have their own voice. They've got 1,000 public forums available to them that are not YouTube, the private corporation. These ideas proliferate. They gain traction in small circles and then grow. If you would like an example of this, I would like to direct you to QAnon. I would like to direct you to Flat Earthers. I would like to direct you to loose change 9/11 conspiracy theorists, of which I used to be one. If you want an example of how these fraction of 1% ideas can spread and become harmful. Material reality generally dictates what types of policy you should engage in on any platform, be it political or business. And the material reality is that these types of thought processes, there we go. These types of thought processes, when allowed to proliferate, when allowed to blossom, go from a fraction of 1% to 2%, to 4%, to 30%. Like what has happened with the election fraud results thing. The fact that we have plenty of people in power in the United States now that agree with the QAnon conspiracies. That is the end result of not dealing with unfactual and frankly harmful information. That's the material reality. And you can sit here and go, well, it's my free speech. It's my free speech. Then go to a different platform. Y'all are the same fuckers that argued that the cake baker should not be forced to bake his gay cake. Your Nazi shit is the gay cake. YouTube is the cake baker. Go to a different cake shop, Caitlin.
That's like cutting celery out of your diet because you're getting fat. But you know what's really ironic about all of this? Who were the ones misleading people about the outcome of the 2016 election? Oh, it was NBC, ABC News, CNN, CBS News, PBS, MSNBC, The Washington Post, The New York Times, and all of the other mainstream media outlets.
So, a couple of things. One, didn't we actually end up finding that there actually was issues with the 2016 election? Again, not so much that it would have changed the outcome of anything, but I believe we found that there was actual Russian interference. It generally played into advertisements and stuff like that, but the fact that that stuff existed meant it got reported on. Though, in any case, this does show another point, though. There is one thing that I can agree with Caitlin on, and that is that legacy media should not gain all the power it has on YouTube. Because it's just as prone to all of these issues as a small independent person would be. Not because of Russia hoax shit or any of that, but just in general, the fact that there are people who try to cover politics and stuff like that, and then they get completely subverted by CBS. Hell, I remember when I made a video about BLM and I used footage directly from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. I used footage that was available on YouTube, and that video was taken down on my channel, and it was seen as problematic because it displayed violence. Except when it was mainstream news outlets, they were allowed to display the exact same violence, because that's where I got the clips from. They were allowed to display it carte blanche. Perfectly fine. No issue. If there's one thing me and Caitlin can agree on, it is that legacy media has undue power on what is supposed to be a platform of and for individuals. However, like with many things that happen with right-wing grifters and people like Caitlin who are so thoroughly entrenched in this kind of thinking that they may as well just be called Nazis, we can agree on some base things, but the way in which we manifest our actions after that end up being completely different. My issue ends up boiling down to large corporations bad, whereas your issue ends up boiling down to my voice isn't being heard and I want to deny the Holocaust. So this is the difference between a left-wing and a right-wing approach to this, I assume. One of us wants to actually tackle the systemic problem, the cause of the disease. And one of us wants the disease to proliferate so long as the disease infects our targets and not us.
Yet how many of their videos did YouTube take down for the lies they told about Russian meddling in the 2016 election? 0.
Yeah, because all we have to do is find a single point of evidence, which we did, about Russia meddling in the election. A single point is all we need. Them paying for an advertisement for a particular candidate, them pushing something on YouTube, them pushing something on Facebook, things of which we did find. All of that comes down to say, yes, meddling happened. You only need one point of data when your point is, did meddling happen, yes or no? You don't have to have enough to show that it was significant. You just have to have enough to show that it existed.
But let's trust these same outlets to definitely tell us the truth about what happened in this election, right? With this, we need to start saying good.
So I need to go ahead and say, Caitlin, with all of that, with all those news outlets, with all of them reporting on the election as it happened, did it change anything? That's my question. Did it change anything? Because if you're whining that they were allowed to say a thing that you don't agree with, and then arguing that you should be allowed to say the same thing, you kind of have to bite the bullet and accept the fact that your opinion wouldn't change anything either. It wouldn't. If the largest media corporation saying this thing didn't change anything about Trump's election, then it wouldn't change anything about Biden's election here. And I know you guys are free speech warriors who believe that you should be allowed to say whatever you want, including, fire in a movie theater. I understand that that actually has some issues as an analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. It comes down to the fact that it doesn't change anything. Did fraud, Jamie Miner has it right in the chat, did fraud happen in the 2020 election? Yes, it did. We found various places where it did happen, like in Georgia. Was there enough to overturn the results? No. YouTube strictly said that you can say that there were fishy things. You can say that there's fraud. You can say that X, Y, and Z happened in the election results. But what you can't say is that the election was entirely rigged in Biden's favor. The election was screwy. The election was fraudulent, completely, through and through. All that stuff is stuff that you're not able to say. And you're upset that you're not able to lie. And I get it. When you live on a throne of lies, when you sleep on a bed of lies, it's very upsetting when you are not allowed to engage in the same kind of rhetoric anymore. But go ahead. Try it on Parler. I'm sure it'll work much better.
Goodbye to YouTube, since they said goodbye to us a long time ago.
She says she's saying goodbye to YouTube, but she still uploads videos to YouTube. since this video was uploaded. Imagine that.
Join us over at libertyhangout.tv to watch Caitlin Bennett Uncensored.
That sounds like a porno I want nothing of. And that's about as far as we're going to get in there, because now we are getting into the shilling part of her video, which I have no reason to proliferate. So, what can we conclude here? Well, I think it's easy enough to conclude that Caitlin Bennett, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter that you believe really hard that Donald Trump should be your king. It doesn't matter that you believe really hard that Florida should secede from the nation so that Trump can be emperor of Florida. It doesn't matter that you think that we should be a monarchy. Your beliefs don't affect material reality. In fact, as another conservative speaker has said before, facts don't care about your feelings. They don't. And again, since Caitlin Bennett has pointed out that she is leaving YouTube,
My name is Caitlin Bennett.
I don't want your opening. That also sounds like a bad porno. But considering that after this, she has uploaded several videos afterwards, I don't think Caitlin Bennett's hopping off YouTube. I think maybe she's started to understand that YouTube is the ubiquitous platform for video sharing. The only thing second to it right now is Facebook as a video sharing platform. So if you're not on here, then your ideas, as shitty as they are, simply will not proliferate. So going to your conservative echo chamber, while that might feel better for you, it doesn't actually change reality. It doesn't change people's minds. It does nothing. All you're doing is going to speak to the people who already agree with you, which I assume is not your goal. If your goal is to reach liberals, if your goal is to reach leftists, then you don't do it by abandoning the platform where the leftists and liberals are. That said, that is as much as we can cover of Caitlin Bennett right now, unless I wanted to delve into her Twitter, which I don't want to do at the moment, even though I know she's having a lovely meltdown over there over Biden's inauguration. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Go ahead and share it with your friends if you really, really enjoyed it. Go ahead and check out the links in the description. I have links to Patreon and other places there where you can support me if you really want to. And thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to move into the next topic. Woo! Okay, you know what I probably should do? Instead of uploading the Caitlin Bennett video as two pieces because of the dinner break, the mukbang service break, I should probably go ahead and just combine those two into a single video now while I'm thinking about it. Because if I don't, I'm sure I'm gonna regret it. So the funny thing is, people who did get banned was mostly just enforcing TOS, so really, they've been letting it slide until
Well, let
now.
me tell you what we're about.
Hold on, this is the reptilian shit. Yeah, that can be. I can hit the delete button on that. Let's go ahead and... that is part 2. Ah, come on. Yes, the other clip is offline. Jesus fucking Christ. You guys get to watch some serious lazy editing. If you guys are ready to watch some incredibly lazy editing on my part. So here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to edit this. We're going to go here, right? This is the beginning. This is the beginning right here. Ah, no, stop it, stop it, stop it. We're going to go ahead and put this here. Because, well, at the end of the day, Fashy McPoop Pants. We're just going to have Fashy McPoop Pants. Perfect. Okay, so.
This is why it's more important than ever for you to join us over at libertyhangout.tv, where
No. Like, okay, Caitlin, I'm not. Also, I have been told, look at the freaking sale. Okay, now that we've gotten into a sale, Caitlin, we're not doing this. Okay, so that could be our cut point. And then we graphed the next part on. So now we'll look at this.
We're not doing this.
I guess we may as well go ahead and continue this video. Now that I've eaten. Caitlin Bennett. Kate's unsafe. Hold on. Kate's. There we go. That's where we go. We do this. This. Boom. Caitlin.
We're not doing this.
Kate's unsafe space. Imagine the virtue signaling. And then boom. We just grab this. And this. Because instead of making 2 videos out of this, which would be the lazy way of going about it, we're just going to combine them into one video, because it was all a critique on one video, really. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to move on to the next topic. Woo! There we go. And then we just hit export. There we did. We did it, everyone! We saved the world. We saved the world from having to watch 2 Caitlin Bennett videos. We combined them into one half-hour-long extravaganza of suffering. Say hi to the past versions of yourselves, everyone. We saved Bikini Bottom. Yep, we ended racism. We did. We really did. I didn't know if we were going to be able to manage it, but, you know, then racism just stopped. And I was very surprised that all it took was a hamburger and 2 whole onions. I had no idea that it would be that simple. But, you know, then racism was over. I was surprised. People are confused, which is good. I enjoy people being confused. It is my favorite emotion to elicit in other people. Martin Luther Cyrus. No, I'm not that prolific, nor would I want to be. Racism is no more. All it took was a couple of onions. Okay. So now we get into what Joe Biden has promised to do on day 1. Technically, it's the stuff he's going to do in his first 100 days as president. Let's see if any of this is actually worthwhile, because realistically, I want America to improve. So let's see if we're going to get a better America with Biden. It's going to be better than Trump's America, more than likely, but let's see. So, for almost 2 years, Joe Biden has been telling America what he plans to do in his first day in office, and in the next 99, if elected to be the nation's 46th president, in speeches and interviews, and at least 49 published plans throughout his presidential campaign, Biden talked about the actions he'd take in the earliest days of his administration, what he would do if he triumphed in what he saw as a battle for the soul of the nation against Donald Trump. Incoming White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain distributed a memo Saturday that reiterated Biden's intention to fulfill several of his promises, some geared towards immediate action to arrest the surging coronavirus pandemic, some to roll back the actions taken by President Trump in the last 4 years, and others to address problems that have persisted over several administrations. Well, let's see. Responding to COVID-19, he would like to issue a max mandate on federal property and interstate travel. Okay, I don't see a problem with that. A mask mandate being on federal property just means that if you're in places that are federally owned by the government, you wear a mask there. This doesn't infringe on the rights of private businesses. This doesn't infringe on the rights of people in their private homes. That's fine. Extend nationwide restrictions on home evictions and foreclosures. That's good. Continue to pause student loan payments. Can we just get rid of the damn things? Like, student loans are predatory as shit. But pausing is okay. It needs to be a removal. It needs to be student loans as they exist in the United States do not need to exist in their current form. They need to be completely and totally abolished. But push for the passage of a $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief legislative package announced last week. This seems to be the $1,400 stimulus check, as well as the extensions on unemployment for COVID-19. This is good, though the conversation that has been happening afterwards is that this should be a $2,000 check instead of a $1,400 check. I'm going to go ahead and say that any COVID-19 relief bill should not be a $1,400 check, should not be for a $2,000 check. There should be a back pay. Because for people who have gone and said, oh, well, it has things for unemployment. Let's go ahead and make this much easier to distinguish.
But the original plan had things for unemployment, Cirrus. Why would you want people to get more money if you're not working? You already are getting more money from the plan. You got more than the $2,000 check. Why do you want more?
Well, let me tell you why I want more. Here's why. Because there are working class people who are not unemployed, but have had their hours cut drastically due to COVID. I've been employed at a place of work, not here recently, but in the past, where my employment had me scheduled for 4 to 8 hours in the work week. I was employed. I could not get unemployment. Not in, it was much harder to get unemployment, rather. There are some states where if your hours are cut super low, you technically can. But again, that's a technicality thing, and the fight for it is not instantaneous. You don't instantly qualify and suddenly you got it. There are people who have had their hours cut, their situations completely and totally upended. And then there are private businesses owned by mom and pops who have not been able to keep themselves afloat during COVID-19. All these people are employed, but they are not getting all the benefits that COVID-19 should be given to them. And before you hit me with the rollout of the payroll protection program that was in the CARES Act, I would like to counter that not every mom and pop owned business takes a payroll, especially not in the early stages of their time. So they don't actually get a payroll protection without an actual payroll to begin with. For instance, I don't take a payroll. I have direct payments that come from YouTube and from Patreon, and I have to put those down on taxes in a 1099 miscellaneous form. I don't have a payroll, but I do have pay that was negatively affected by COVID-19. I don't qualify for any of that shit. Overturning Trump's actions. Rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. That's a good thing. End so-called Muslim ban on travel, which in 2017 restricted travel and immigration to the United States from Syria, Iran, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen, before adding multiple other countries afterwards as well in 2020. Yep. That's not a ban that we needed to have in the first place. If we are banning people from joining the United States because of their religion, not because they're actually going to do anything, all we're doing is engaging in bigotry. All we're doing is engaging in hateful rhetoric. And, well, as Greg Locke would put it, divisive rhetoric. What else do we have on here? Day one promises. COVID-19 response. Rejoin the WHO. Okay, That is a good thing to do. Immigration. Send bill to Congress for legislative immigration reform that will modernize our immigration system and give nearly 11 million undocumented immigrants a roadmap to citizenship. This is a good thing. Trying to make it harder for people to become American citizens is not what you want. America does nothing but economically benefit from immigration, and we have numbers to back that up. And also, immigrants in America do not commit anywhere near as much crime as natural-born citizens do in America. So when you try to hit with the point that they're doing horrible things and we don't want them coming into our country, by and large, no, they're not. Climate change. Sign executive orders to formulate a plan to achieve a 100% clean energy economy and net zero emissions by 2050. This is a good thing. If you are an economically developed nation, if you are a first world country, after you move out of the industrial age, you should be working towards lowering your carbon emissions, because we only get one try at this planet. We only get one. And I'd rather us not lose it, especially not before we have the ability to colonize another planet, just in case we fuck this one up. Transgender rights. Repeal transgender military ban enacted by President Trump. Biden would also restore the Obama-era guidance for transgender students in schools to protect students' access to sports, bathrooms, and locker rooms in accordance with their gender identity. This is another good thing. If you need me to explain why it's good to be able to allow trans people in the military, let me explain why. Disproportionately, most trans people in the United States are in poverty. They are poor, and they are especially disenfranchised because they have, generally speaking, more medical expenses than cis people do by nature of being trans. If you are going to have HRT, if you are going to go in for any amount of surgeries, those are things and procedures that you're going to have to deal with by default just by existing as your own person. Existing as yourself naturally is more expensive. The military is one of the few practically guaranteed, as long as you stay in long enough, methods out of poverty in the United States. It is one of the only ones that if you go into, you will be able to guarantee yourself medical care for the rest of your life if you stay in long enough. You'll be able to guarantee yourself a retirement paycheck for the rest of your life if you stay in long enough. It's one of the only fields that you can look at if you are in poverty and pull yourself out. And as much as I have problems with the United States military, the imperialism, and all the shit that we get into in other countries that we shouldn't, I can't deny that it is in fact currently a method for people to claw out of poverty and a method for people to gain access to medical care that they otherwise would not have. And given that trans people disproportionately need more medical care to begin with, banning them from the military is not a good thing. It's simply not. So letting them back in is good. Environment. Enact an executive order to conserve 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. I don't know exactly what that would entail, so I cannot offer an opinion on it. In the first 100 days, Biden will be relying on Congress to approve many of the initiatives he aimed to accomplish in the first 100 days, which could potentially be difficult, especially with the slight majority that is held by the Democrats. By the Democrats. Here are some of the promises. Economic recovery. Initiate Build Back Better economic recovery plans in February during a joint session in Congress. Released during the general election, the plan called for spending trillions on American-made products, health services, and infrastructure updates. Now, that is a good thing right now, because currently one of the goals of America is to be a leader on the world stage when it comes to practically everything. We want to be best at healthcare. We want to be best at production. We want to be best at multiple things. And we've outsourced so much of that American workers on our own soil, can't function due to a lack of jobs. And there's the other problem that the whole reason that we outsource half of this stuff to begin with is because it allows us to exploit the labor of other nations where it's cheaper. it's a twofold problem. You fuck over American workers, and you also exploit workers abroad. So trying to make things more American-made, while it may sound like a nationalistic thing, in the current environment, it's really not. Because by trying to have more things that you are using in America, made in America, you are basically making sure that workers have access to more jobs, and that you are not engaging in rabid exploitation of underdeveloped countries, which is what we currently do. Climate. Organize a climate world summit to push leaders to more aggressively tackle climate change, specifically addressing global shipping and aviation emissions. This is one of the priorities Mr. Biden has established that does not require congressional approval. The new president also promised to pressure China to stop subsidizing coal and outsourcing pollution. This is basically just repeats on what I said a few minutes ago about exploitation. Repealing tax cuts. In order for pay for many of these wish list items, Biden says that he would fight to repeal the 2017 tax cuts, which would require action by Congress. He argued that the tax cuts favored wealthy Americans, which they do. This is one of the things that I had a problem with. My grandpa, actually, before he passed, he was hoping that Trump would pass the tax cuts because he said that they would be incredibly helpful. And in one sense, they were incredibly helpful for some working class Americans because they did keep some of us in a 12% tax bracket instead of having us move more fluidly into higher brackets as we got things like overtime, for instance. But on the flip side, that tiny benefit, the $10 or $20 that were gained by every worker as a result of that, which is minimal, could not be was nothing if not overshadowed by the amount of money saved by larger corporations as a result of this. And as we've discovered, trickle-down economics don't exactly work. You don't necessarily get more pay for your workers because you've cut the taxes from the businesses. In fact, what we generally find is that when you tax businesses higher, large businesses, corporations, you were talking your Disneys, your factories, not your mom and pop places. When we tax these places higher, we are able to give tax break incentives to them to expand and keep jobs within the United States so that they can get those lower taxes by doing things that help American citizens instead of by existing. So this is a good thing. Guns. After FBI studies loopholes in the guns background program, Mr. Biden says he would ask Congress to close the loopholes and repeal liability protection for gun manufacturers, which would allow Americans to sue the gun industry if a gun is used in a crime. Biden also said he wants to restructure federal agencies that oversee gun laws. Now, I am a little torn on this, but if I were to steelman it, being able to sue a gun company when a gun is used in a crime means that the legal process would have to determine whether or not the gun company was responsible for the gun falling in your hands. And if they found that it was responsible for the gun falling in the hands of somebody who committed a crime, then a suit could continue forward. This also guarantees that gun companies would be forced to engage in better gun sale practices, try their best to make sure that guns don't simply end up on the shelves at a gun show where documentation is not readily kept and background checks are not used in order for gaining firearms. That's me steelmanning it. I can see ways in which this could be used incorrectly. I can see ways in which this could be used to keep the proletariat from having access to arms. So I am in. Also, for the idiot who is saying, I know it's you, Star Raptor, saying why not sue a knife company? Because a knife is not a gun. A knife has more purposes than a gun does. I can use a knife to open a box. I can use a knife to pick at gunk in my nails. I can use a knife to do a myriad of things. A knife is a tool. A gun is not a tool. A gun is a weapon and a weapon alone. There is the difference. If you cannot understand that, I am sorry that the education system has failed you. I hope it does not continue to do so. But like I said, if I steelman this, I can see it being a good thing. I can also see it being a bad thing. So I'm torn on it. It depends on how it's executed. Violence. As a senator, Mr. Biden authored the Violence Against Women Act in 1994 to offer more protections for women. This legislation needs to be signed into law again. Biden said that one key effort of the update would include greater protections for transgender women, which is good because currently there are things you can engage in like trans panic, which people have used so that they have a shoddy but still somewhat functional legal defense if they happen to sleep with someone who's trans, kill them, and then they can claim the trans panic defense to try to get a different kind of sentencing. Equality is the last thing on here. I don't know if the violent stuff will necessarily stop the trans panic stuff. I'm hoping it does because it is mentioned in there, but we'll see. Equality, pushed to pass the Equality Act, a bill to add more protections for LGBT Americans. I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, like I said, there are some things in here that I do think could have some issues. I don't know what the Environment Act specifically entail, so that concerns me, not because I think that anything necessarily would come as a result of it, but simply by not knowing, I'm less confident. And then the stuff about guns, I am worried that that could potentially be used incorrectly and would prevent people from being able to get weapons to defend themselves. As we saw during the BLM protests, people who went to protests armed with guns did not get harassed by the police anywhere near as often as people who went unarmed to protests, almost as if having a deterrent helped in those situations. And to argue that the state should be allowed to enact violence against you, but you should not be allowed to enact violence against the state, I don't believe that that is a proper way to view the world in any way, shape, or form. So my biggest concern here is the gun stuff. I am worried that this could potentially be misused. I don't want to engage in a slippery slope fallacy and say that, oh, well, they take the guns and then they take the this and then they take the that, because I don't know. I don't know. I'm simply saying that this is one of those things that could go either way. I would need to sit down and read the actual methodology and what the legislation is going to actually enact. And even then, I won't really know what it's going to do until after it's been in effect for a few years and we see what it's actually done. So maybe I should just end this segment with this. The further left you go, the more guns you get back. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, that's now granted, that is a response to CBS News' summation of what Biden is going to be doing in his first 100 days. So I have no way of knowing if this is the most accurate presentation of what's going to be happening. But that is where we are right now, and those are my opinions on what the Biden administration is to be doing in the future. What should we do about it? Hold his feet to the fire. If he says he's going to do things for economic recovery, for climate recovery, if he's going to do things to lower the violence in the United States, hold his feet to the fire on it. Don't let him get away with saying that, oh, the Republicans steel-walled us, or this, that, or the other. Like, make sure Biden does shit. Make sure he does shit. That said, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this particular presentation, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and if you want to support me and the channel and what I do, go ahead and check the description below. You'll find links to Patreon and everything else down there, and that will be able to help support the channel and everything that I do over here in this little corner of the internet. And if you want to know when new episodes go live, the best way you can do that is by hitting the bell notification icon, so that you can know whenever a new video is coming out, when the YouTube gods decide they want to actually allow that to work. With all that said, thank you all for watching, and I am out. At least out of that. That is that as far as this is concerned. I think I still have another topic I want to cover. I could be wrong. I see conversations happening about the AR-15 right now. The AR-15 is not the biggest issue, honestly. The biggest issue in the United States is not rifles, it's handguns. More crimes are committed with handguns than rifles. The conversation centering around the AR-15 is a giant fucking is a red herring. No, we're not going to Magabook. Not anymore. Not after they porn bombed us. No. Not doing that. Jesus Christ lives in my air guts. We're talking about hunting. I mean, you can use an AR-15 to hunt. There's nothing wrong with that. It's better to use a 22 because it won't destroy the meat. A 22 bullet, if you can hit the brain to the heart, it tends to bounce around off of bone. And that ends up functioning better for hunting. But, I mean, if you want to use an AR-15 to hunt, go right the fuck ahead. Yeah, see you at Parlor. What's Parlor? Yeah, you say it's probably best that you missed it. I make the argument that if you need an AR-15 to kill a deer, you're a lousy hunter, but that's just me. But an AR-15 is just a single-shot rifle. It's a single-shot semi-auto thing. Like, again, the conversation about AR-15s seems to end up boiling down to the gun looks military-y. I've never understood the conversation as it centers on AR-15s. Black polymer furniture versus wood furniture. Matte gray finish versus stainless steel finish. They're both gas operated. Semi-auto rifles with 22 barrels. Any band that only hits one of them. Yeah, that's like the AR-15 was similar to the 22, but looks militaristic. Yeah, like a 22 rifle that you would normally use for hunting. That's what an AR-15 is. It just looks different. It's literally just an aesthetic difference. That's why the AR-15 conversation always confuses me, because it's a giant scapegoat. But Bleck, if you want the hunt... Okay, look, let me say this as somebody who has a crossbow for hunting. The trick... The reason you get a crossbow for hunting is not because you want things to be more challenging. It's because crossbow hunting season is a thing where you legally can't use a rifle. The only reason to use an AR-15 for hunting is for wild boars, but it's no different than a hunting rifle. An AR-15 is no different than a hunting rifle. The only thing that's different is the aesthetics. No, you can't use crossbows all year. You have a crossbow season and you have a rifle season. You're allowed to use rifles during one season and you're allowed to use crossbows during one season. And depending on when you're hunting, you have to use one or the other. David says, you need to have me on for weapons. We can go into how this is a red herring in depth. I mean, yeah, that would be good. Like, again, the whole conversation centering around AR-15, there's no skill in pointing a walking staff at a deer and pulling a lever. It's not about, okay, Bleck, can I just point out it's not about skill, it's about getting food. There's no skill in getting food from the grocery store, but I go and get food from the grocery store. I wouldn't hunt for sport. I hunt for food. I hunt so I have cheap food. I don't care that there's no skill in it. I care that I have food to eat. Like, I'm sure there's at least some conservative there that would feel like his penis got emasculated because there was no skill involved in what he did. Off topic a bit, have you seen the 1776 commission that Trump tried before he left? A little bit of it. You know what? Give me a second. We'll do this for about 10-ish minutes. Why only certain weapons around for particular seasons? That I don't know entirely. It's just reality of living in Georgia. That all said, I can. We have David here from the chat in who is ex-military, does know a little bit about weapon systems, and does know wanted to come on to talk about why like the AR-15 conversation as it results to the conversation on what guns should be legal and not is a giant red herring. I went into it a little bit in that for me, if you're hunting with a .22 rifle that's a single shot semi-auto guy, and then you're handed an AR-15, you've been handed the exact same rifle, it just looks differently. But I will go ahead and let somebody with a little more experience in this give a comment.
Sure. So let me preamble first by going in a little bit more detail. Former Marine, I was trained as an ammo tech for my job, which means that I know the bullets. Any military person in the chat probably is going to be upset that they use the term bullet, but I'm trying to speak more from a layman's perspective. I understand their rounds, casings, what have you. So not just that, but my roommate throughout the service was an armorer. My job was in the armory. So I'm very familiar with different weapon systems, from little bitty 22 caliber shorts all the way up to 50 millimeters and then large howitzer rounds and what have you. Now, where the problem is that I see it is people look at the gun, the weapon system, and they say, this is the same thing that our soldiers have, which is factually inaccurate. So the M16, the M4, and other weapon systems that the military standard use are 5.56 NATO rounds. These rounds have a higher density grain count. They pack more of a punch. The design is to make sure that they kill. The AR-15 that people use are what's called a 223, and the grain's just not as strong, but it's essentially the same round as a 5.56. But it's not designed for killing humans. So if any of y'all in chat Google .223 Remington, you'll see a very colloquial hunting rifle. It doesn't have like an extended magazine. It doesn't have anything. It might even be a bolt action, which means that you fire, you have to manually rack the bolt back and then back forward for it to chamber the next round. Those are obviously less dangerous when we're talking about stuff like school shootings, because you have to chamber each round yourself. Whereas an AR-15 is normally, as Sura said earlier, it's a semi-automatic weapon. Semi-automatic means you pull and the bolt automatically, through buffer spring action, ejects the old casing and chambers the next round through the magazine. It's a hunting rifle. They just look prettier is what it basically comes down to. Now, I'm pro-gun. I'm Second Amendment. I believe that there should be more restrictions on weapon systems in general, like how a person attains and what they can attain. But something I do want to echo from Sarah's earlier is one of the bigger issues that we have when it comes to school shooting, when it comes to person-on-person hate crimes. And when I say hate crime, I don't just mean because this person is a different skin color. I mean just killing a person is pretty bad. So rifles rarely play into stuff like that. because they're clunky, they're heavy, and generally speaking, they hold about the same amount of munitions as a pistol can. The hunting rifle that I asked some of y'all to search up, if y'all did, you'll notice that it probably has a magazine that'll hold about 8 rounds. Your standard Glock is going to hold about 8 rounds as well, plus 1 in the chamber. You can get some 45 cal 9 mils that can hold up to 15 rounds plus 1 in the chamber.
There's also a thing that was just said in the chat, so pistols are worse. As far as the data is concerned, yes, the rifles have been a red herring in this conversation for ages. There's a reason that Ben Shapiro uses the rifle statistics on gun violence to argue that it's not a problem in America. There's a reason he uses rifles specifically, because rifles have a lower or comparable kill rate and damage rate to knives in the United States as far as weapons used for crimes. However, handguns are incredibly overrepresented here, and the conversation about AR-15s and rifles and what have you has been used as a red herring for this for years, so that you can get somebody who knows about weaponry to come in and stomp on the liberal who just wants the school shootings to stop.
Right. So I just sent you a picture. If you can throw that into your stream, that would be great. I just did a quick Google search. This is off of somebody's YouTube video. I don't know. But what it is a size comparison between a .223 rifle round and a 9mm. Now, a 9mm is normally a small pistol round. The smallest round you can get for a pistol is a .22 short. That I know of. They may have smaller ones. I've been out for for a decade now, so they may have smaller ones. But the normal smallest one you can get is a .22 caliber. Those are itty bitty. They're not for anything more than maybe training your child on proper safety and weapon handling and stuff like that, and then letting them fire. There's not much recoil. Anyways, so the 9mm round are normally what law enforcement use. That's also your most ubiquitous round when we're talking about pistols. Now, the .223 is also a common hunting round, but the big difference you'll notice is if, I don't know, Sarah, did you post the picture? I can't see the screen.
The picture on the screen.
All right, so what you'll see is there's a huge size difference. That rifle round is so damn long. It's got to do more damage.
Except it doesn't.
Anybody that knows weapon systems though know that the only thing of importance is the very, very tip. That's the only thing that's going to go in and out of the body.
So here's the other thing. Depending on the size of the round, the damage it will cause internally to a person doesn't increase the bigger your round is, because your smaller rounds can end up bouncing around in a person's internals and like liquefying things, whereas your larger ones can go through.
Yes and no. It's got a lot to do with how the bullet, the tip of the round, is manufactured. So if you've got like a lead core with a brass exterior and it's a solid round, not a hollow point, not anything like that, generally speaking, those are designed to be through and through rounds. If you've got a hollow point, those are designed that as soon as they strike a surface, they mushroom out and then do what you were talking about, where they will bounce in and out of the body. This is kind of where the JFK assassination multi-gunman theory came from, is because one of the rounds entered JFK's body and it bounced like crazy and then exited. I want to say it exited out of like his lower back or side or something like that, but it had entered around his shoulder blade. So it's a vast difference of where the entry and exit point was not a clear line of sight, but that's because it was a mushroom, or it mushroomed out and started bouncing. But what I want to kind of get back to is the bullet size itself really does matter. On the .223, if you zoom in that picture I sent you, for example, you'll notice that it's more like spear-like. The bullet itself, not the casing, the part that ejects from the casing. is very, very narrow in caliber size. So that's going to assist in the through and through, whereas the 9mm is kind of more blunt, and it's a wider caliber. So the hole logarithmically is going to be a larger exit wound, and it's going to do catastrophically more damage than getting struck with a 223. I have personally gotten hit with a 5.56, which is essentially a 223, and I can barely see the scar anymore. But a 9mm is pretty efficient at stopping somebody cold turkey, and not in the good way. So when we're talking about rifles are bad, which seems to be like the more seen on the left side viewpoint of weapon system. No, the issue really should probably be focused on caliber size. I have no reason whatsoever to own a 50 caliber Beretta, which is sniper rifle, but they are legal for me to own. They're clunky, they're extremely heavy as far as rifles are concerned. So the likelihood of anybody using them in something like a school shooting is slim to none. When you can pick up a pistol, which some of them weigh as little as less than a pound fully loaded, and do just as much damage because you're close range. Rifles are normally designed for moderate range to longer range, depending on how you spec your system. Because you can mod rifles just as much as you can mod the Nerf guns, as I'm learning from Surus.
I may have been sending him videos.
Well, and it's entertaining. I do like learning things, so it's interesting to me, even though I have no interest in them. But it is relevant even if we have somebody in chat right now that is a Nerf modder, but has never even fired a real weapon in their life, which is fine. I don't mean to make that sound like I'm belittling that hypothetical person. But it does help that person. Hold on one moment. Excuse me, I'm fighting off a cold. I had to call. So it does help that person be able to grasp what I'm talking about. The rifle that we're talking about, like the AR-15, normally they have a compound for the front where you can add a scope, you can add a laser sight, a flashlight, all this tactical looking gear.
All the tactical stuff you attach to Picatinny.
Right. But again, that's the people that do that are really normally like hobbyists, just like the Nerf modders, and aren't your standard person. Like if I were to go out and buy an AR-15 right now, I have no interest whatsoever in a laser sight or a scope. I trained on iron sights. I enjoy iron sights.
Well, and iron sights don't have to be calibrated anywhere near as often as a laser sight does. Like, the reason that I'm not going to use a laser sight on a Nerf weapon is because I'm going to have to calibrate that multiple times anytime I want to use it.
Well, we could get into the nuances of, are you using like a $50 laser, or are you using a $500 laser? But all of that's really irrelevant. The fact is that's hobbyists. Now, as much as we like to hate on Queen Poopy Pants, what she did was, for the most part, legal when she's able to walk around campus with a weapon. Now, obviously, if they say, hey, get off our property, fine, whatever. She was exercising her Second Amendment rights. And every video that I've seen, she actually does have very good gun control techniques. She's got a 3-point strap. She doesn't put her finger directly on the trigger if she were to grab the weapon by the
She actually has trigger discipline.
Right, yeah. So that stuff is important to look at and to at least comment on why we are shit talking her. I mean, I'm fine with shit. Well, she's fine with shitting. Anyways, so I'm fine shit talking her for her Nazi takes, but it is important, like since we're talking about the weapons and stuff, that if more people were, let's say, as educated on weapon systems as I believe she is, then we wouldn't really have this gun debate as we do. It wouldn't be about AR-15 looks scary. It would be about, okay, but a 45 handgun can do a lot more damage than a 223 hunting rifle that just looks like a military weapon.
Yeah, it'd be like to make it make sense for somebody who may be into just like Nerf stuff. When you have a long barrel on a Nerf rifle, that does not mean that it's going to be more accurate, because a barrel for a Nerf rifle doesn't add spin or anything like a barrel would for a standard firearm. It's almost purely aesthetic. But if somebody's not engaged in that hobby, they might think that, oh, this Nerf sniper rifle would be a great thing for me to get. And then you have to point out to them there's functionally no difference between that sniper and a pistol. The sniper's actually worse because of the barrel. There's more friction on the foam. But you don't get any of that unless you actually have experience.
Right. I do want to kind of pick at that a little bit, though. So, the companies like Nerf and Dart Blaster and stuff they're not making these to function like real weapons, or to be mirror images of how they function. So, in your standard weapon system, what you have is you have your bolt close in around your round. When you pull the trigger, the firing pin hits the primer, and the primer ignites the gunpowder, which causes a massive amount of pressure, and it causes the bullet itself to dislodge from the casing. Now, the bullet's got nowhere to go but forward, and with all that pressure, it's just going to keep going forward. Mm-hmm. The advantages on a real weapon, not like a Nerf gun or anything, is if you've got a longer muzzle, if you've got a longer barrel, normally that does actually equate to it can go further distance. That's because the bullet has that pressure behind it, and it's able to go to gain speed before it has stuff like elemental factors, wind resistance, gravity, and what have you acting against it. It has a longer time in the barrel to be able to increase its speed. So you end up having either a higher muscle velocity, a longer total range, or a combination of both. And that also goes along with how the round is designed itself. So the 223 round is a long round, whereas the 9mm is a short round. So on the 223, it's got more gunpowder. More gunpowder directly equates to more power. So it's going to go long. It's going to go further down range. Whereas the 9mm round, you're going to have less gunpowder, so the max effective range is not going to be as dramatic. Normally, pistols' max effective range, 50 yards ish. Effective is not how far the bullet will actually travel. Just to play semantics here. But a rifle, like when I went through boot camp and anytime we went to the range to train, we did 200, 300, 500 yards. And the 500 yards, it would be just as easy to shoot the target as it was the 200, because that's just how the rifle and the rifle rounds are designed.
Which is where you get into the conversations about, are you more scared of the weapon that looks scary and looks militaristic, like the AR-15, or are you more scared of, I know there's a conversation happening in the chat that I want to mirror, are you more scared of the weapon that can cause more damage and also happens to be concealable? Like the conversation in the chat right now is about sawed-off shotguns and how the purpose of a sawed-off shotgun it fails in every regard compared to a full barrel shotgun, except in its concealability, which means that it is not functionally useful for most things except for committing crimes, because it is
Right,
outperformed in every way by its non-modified ulterior.
Right. So you talked about the sawed-off shotgun. I'll give an example to the chat. As a part of my training, I made bombs. That was fun. But regardless, so 2 bombs specifically. Let's say I just have a thing of C4, and I cause it to go boom. Now, if there's no shielding, if there's no protection or anything, I just throw it out in a field and I run a det cord to it and I ignite it. It's going to explode wherever it doesn't have resistance. The same thing applies to, we have what's called shape charges, which the way they're designed is it focuses the blast to the path of least resistance to a very specific area. Now, these are used for like breaching walls. These are used for setting up where a tank will run over it or what have you. And it is designed to do very specific damage. Now, the shape charges use very strong steel, very thick steel. Then you put the explosive compounds into this steel, and then you put just a weak ass covering over it, something like some type of polymer, any number of things, however they actually manufacture them. So what happens is when you ignite it, the polymer is the first thing to go because it's the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about a sawed-off shotgun, it works kind of the same thing. If you have your standard barrel on like a Whiskey 1200 or whatever type of shotgun you're using, that acts as a shape charge. That makes it so the round, if you're using birdshot, if you're using double aughts, whatever you're using, is focused down the chamber, and it allows the let's say a birdshot to stay together longer, so its expansion ratio is not as great. Now, if you were to load a birdshot into a sawed-off shotgun that only has like a 2-3 inch barrel,
It's just
what
going to
you're
go
going to have
everywhere.
is you're going to have those. Right, yeah. And for anybody in chat that may not know what I mean when I say birdshot, birdshots are types of shotgun shells that have little steel pellets inside the bigger shotgun casing, the shell casing. So when you pull the trigger, the primer hits, the gunpowder goes, instead of a single slug, like in a double aught, you have hundreds of little bitty pellets that can do damage. They're called bird shots because if you've ever tried to shoot a bird, you know that they're pretty fast, pretty maneuverable, and you're just going for the scatter shot effect. Maybe one of my rounds will get him, and that's what the purpose is for that. I had something to say about school shooting. I forgot it. Back to your chat about the concealed carry and all that other stuff. My concern has never been with if somebody shows up to school with an AR-15 or with a pistol. My concern is somebody shows up to school with any weapon system that knows how to use it, because I can be just as deadly with a pistol as I can be with a rifle if we ignore the distance between me and my target. Since school shootings are close range, that's why pistols are normally most effective, if you'll excuse my poor choice of words there, because the gunman doesn't really have to shoot 600 yards to get his target. It's normally walk into the school
You're in a hallway.
classroom. Right, yeah, you're in a hallway. They don't have very much to go. They are constrained to like a 10-foot wide area. You pull the trigger, you're probably gonna hit something. You've also got the ability where you get to keep the pistol close to your body, and so it's harder for somebody to be able to steal the weapon from you to try and play hero. Whereas a rifle, if you don't know what you're doing tactfully, like you can walk by a door, somebody can reach their arm out grab the barrel, and you're done. You're no longer a school shooter. So if we really want to get down to it, I would much prefer a school shooter to only have access to an AR-15 than to have access
Than
to
a handgun.
say a 9mm, right? I mean, ideally, I would like none.
You'd
of them
like
too,
none.
But,
the ideal
Right.
scenario is for there not to be a fucking school shooting.
Yes, let me make that clear for YouTube. I don't want school shooters to be a thing. I don't want death to be a thing. However, when we're putting it against the conversation going on from us lay people all the way up to Congress, it's important to note that an AR-15 would lead to it being a higher chance for that person that is the school shooter to be disarmed and removed as a threat than having a pistol.
And then there's the other issue where if Congress, this becomes a compounding problem. So let's say Congress does an AR-15 ban, right? And you've got, I have people who used to be friends. I don't really call them friends anymore, but one of them is a conservative who owns multiple AR-15s strictly because he thinks it pisses off liberals. That's the only reason he fucking has them. If AR-15s get banned and then gun violence does not go down, which of course it wouldn't because they are not the problem, the Democrats get to go, well, we tried, we did our best, and then the conservatives, after that, get to go, you see, gun control doesn't work.
Right.
And then the conversation moves from that platform onward because you hit an aesthetic problem, not an actual systemic problem. It would be like, well, it would functionally be the same as making a law that said that police officers were not able to wear military-looking gear, but then you functionally, like, all the gear that they had functionally did the same thing, it just didn't look as intimidating. Like, yeah, you've made them look more cuddly, but they're still killing at the same rate.
Right.
You've not done anything. Like, you may have done something to stop escalations in very specific scenarios where the intimidation factor was the cause of escalation, but you didn't actually attack the problem. You did something that aesthetically looked like you attacked the problem, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, and we've also had that conversation before. I think you've mentioned it on stream before, rather, I should say, that back to the beginning where the conservatives are able to say, oh, see, taking the guns away don't do anything. It's the same type of argument that they've had with the VA, where they completely screw up the VA's funding and then go, see, socialized medicine doesn't work. Why would y'all want something that is so crappy?
Yep, and it's the same thing that's happening when I had Channel Pup on, is the same thing that's happening over there with the NHS, is that the NHS is getting screwed, and then the Tories go, well, you see, the NHS is ineffective, we should defund it. Right. When their defunding is the reason why it's become effective. Sable Eagle makes a good point in the chat, though, is that the problem is not the AR-15 or the pistol. The problem is that some kid had problems, thought the problems were bad enough to justify killing people to solve them, and then thought killing people could solve those problems. He couldn't see a better way to solve them and had access to guns and ammunition and the ability to bring them to school. And that's something that I agree with. This is why attacking the aesthetics of the problem, just get rid of the gun, it doesn't work, especially not in an environment that is already acclimated to guns. You have to attack how did the child who should not have access to the firearm get access to the firearm? Why did the child feel like that was the correct thing to do? And you can't pull it down to this is a mental health issue, because by and large, it's not. If you look it up, the data suggests that where mass shootings are concerned, mental health only plays a role 3 to 5% of the time. It's not just a mental health issue. There's a systemic societal issue that leads people who are neurotypical to think that this is the correct thing to do. That's the problem. Because you can't just say it's a random outlier, it was a mental health problem, if statistically it wasn't.
You're right. So first of all, Sable, what they said, like, it actually gave me goosebumps because it resonates with me. For anybody that's old enough to know what Columbine was,
Yep.
Cyrus, I know you're old enough. For anybody that's not, Columbine was a prominent school shooting by two guys back in, I think, '99, and it caused basically the gun conversation that we're having right now. One of the people that was blamed was Marilyn Manson. It's got to be his devil music. That's what it is. And of course it wasn't. But he was on Bill O'Reilly. And Bill O'Reilly asked him, he said, if you had a chance to talk to these boys, what would you tell them? And Marilyn Manson said something very similar to what Sable had said. And that's why it gave me chill bumps. Marilyn Manson said, I wouldn't say anything to them. I would let them talk, because that's what did not happen.
Because somebody thought that was the only option they had.
Right.
And
right.
It comes down to, sometimes somebody thinks it's the only option they had. Sometimes somebody doesn't understand why what they're doing is wrong. And sometimes it comes down to someone not caring. But when it comes to school shooting, it's usually a kid who is engaging in this violence, which means that there's something that we, as a society, failed to do in the interim. There's something that we failed to do. It doesn't suddenly exonerate them of blame now that they've done something, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't have done better.
Right. Now, there's also a lot of psychological and socioeconomic issues to go along with this. So, when you read into the school shooter, normally what you'll find is, and I say normally because there's always the one case. Normally what you'll find is this is a child that was, say, picked on throughout school, that was not one of the preps, quote unquote. He was an outlier. This was back in '99 for the Columbine kids. Those kids, they played video games
and Pika, Shy is not joking. Part of the conversation was, is it because the boys played Doom that they wanted to kill? Because
yes.
Circumstantially, the way that they planned the shooting was by creating a map in Doom that was a replica of their school, and planning out the shooting using the map with Doom, the first-person shooter. The problem is that if you had removed Doom from the equation, they would have just used graphing paper, and the same thing would have happened.
Right, and this kind of goes back to, before I joined the call, that person that was in chat and was talking about, well, let's take away the knives. So if we're going to take away the video games, because they're evil, Satan, whatever, are we going to take away the graphing paper? Are we going to take away the dirt, because they can scribble shapes into the dirt? If you want to go reductio on it, it's not going to work. It's about how a person is able to perceive stuff. But if you look at the socioeconomic, or the socio part of it, the psychological part of it, what you'll find is they're normally the outcast of the school. Now, the problem with this is the way our environment is set up, the way American environments are set up, and why we have such a problem with it, is willingly or not, the principals, the counselors, and stuff like that have a propensity to side with the more popular people, because that just so happens to line up with how they are in society currently. The principal, he's the leader of the school. Well, you've got these jocks that are perceived as the leader of the student population. So they're more likely to be inclined to believe the preps and stuff. If there's just something simple as like cheating or a fight or something like that. There was an instance where I got jumped by the football team, and I'm not joking. It was the football team. When I was in high school, and I was the one that was given 3 days out of school suspension while nothing happened to the football team, because they're the popular ones. It's got to be that they are telling the truth. Now, it didn't matter that there was security camera footage or what had happened. So the psychological issues with Dylan and the other kid, I forget his name, was that they were outcasts. Nobody would listen to them. They weren't popular. They were treated like shit. All these other things. And I'm not justifying what they did. By no means should they have done that. However, it does need to be brought up as a question of, would this have even happened if our society were to treat that type of people, the outcasts and what have you, differently?
Basically what's being said here is that if you want to make fun of the person playing Pokemon in the middle of the school, don't. All joking aside, though, this has been very informative, and I do think we are getting close to where the stream should be ending, mainly just due to time. We've been here for a bit.
Right.
Wouldn't have been here for so long if Magabook hadn't porn bombed us, but you know.
That's always interesting.
But I do want to thank you, David, for hopping in and giving your insight on weapons into the conversation. And with that said, I'm going to hop out of here, and I will probably send you a message over on Discord.
All right. Y'all have a great day.
Will do. And with that said, that is probably going to be where we close the stream off on that incredibly somber note, talking about school shootings of all things. Yeah, don't let them play with dihydrogen monoxide. Let's go full reductio ad absurdum. If the kid didn't have water, he couldn't have shot anyone. I want Alex Jones to finally respond to me on Magabook. That all said, thank you all for watching. I'm going to go ahead and drop us into the end stream music. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for coming out. And I will see you all hopefully tomorrow, if not Friday.